Please welcome the chair of the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber, Percy Kirk.
Good morning, everybody. Well, this is a social group. We are glad you enjoy one another. Well, thank you for joining us for the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber's Chairman's Breakfast this morning. Traditionally, the first Chairman's Breakfast of the year features Oklahoma's governor. And today's event is special because for the first time in his tenure, Governor Kevin Stitt will address this chamber group. We're honored to have Governor Stitt with us here today, and we're looking forward to his comments. This morning, the sponsor for this morning's breakfast is Cox Communications, and I'd like to welcome Randy Chandler to give a couple of remarks.
Thanks, Percy. So it really is a privilege to be here this morning and for Cox to sponsor the breakfast. And Cox does care. We care about our community. We care about the people here. We care about the businesses in Oklahoma City. And that just leads us to want to be a part of things like this today. You know, as I was coming to the event, and I heard Percy ask me if I would do these kind of introductions, I was thinking about a word to describe the feeling. And for me, it was anticipation. And the reason is I can't wait to hear what the governor has to say about Oklahoma becoming a top 10 state. You know, we're top 10 in a lot of sporting things, but man, I want to see Oklahoma be a top 10 state. And I thought, you know, we know exactly what that looks like. In Oklahoma City has become a top 10 city. And sometimes we're number one on things like the best place for an entrepreneur to start a new business. And Oklahoma City is the capital of Oklahoma. So we know what that looks like. So today, as the governor comes, I can't wait to hear how he's going to make changes to bring about putting Oklahoma in a place where we're in the top 10. That's where we deserve to be. So looking forward to a great morning. Thank you, Percy.
Randy. Thank you, Randy. And before we begin, could I ask all of our elected officials to please stand and be recognized so we can show you our appreciation for attending today's event? Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service for the people in our state. The past few weeks, there's been a noticeable sense of optimism as we embark in a new era of Oklahoma. With new faces at every level of government, 2019 is a fresh start and a new opportunity in many ways. That includes a new era of leadership for our state under Governor Kevin Stitt. At Governor Kevin Stitt's State of the State address last month, he offered a bold vision for Oklahoma, as Randy pointed out, to make Oklahoma a top 10 state through a positive turnaround that delivers a better future for all Oklahomans. As members of the business community, we understand how this impacts state policies directly tied to our ability to be successful. For more than 125 years, the Chamber's worked hand in hand with business leaders to improve the outcomes of the Greater Oklahoma City region, and we could not be more optimistic about having a governor who shares those same priorities. Consider the following pillars that Governor Stitt believes will help build a better Oklahoma: reforming our education system, expanding economic prosperity, reforming our criminal justice system, improving our infrastructure, fostering a healthy Oklahoma. Already you can see many areas that we can collaborate as we move forward. The Chamber has a full legislative agenda, including many of the items I just mentioned, and we're pursuing a better business environment at the state capitol every day. We take our role in serving as the voice of business very seriously, and an important part of that role is working together to improve all of Oklahoma. We're looking forward to building our relationship with Governor Stitt and other elected officials statewide as we collaboratively work towards a brighter future and his goal of being a top 10 state. A future where businesses can succeed, children can receive a world-class education, and where families and individuals can build a better life and thrive. An important part of the future of the state involves you, and that's part of why we appreciate you being here this morning. We encourage every member here today to visit okcchamber.com/legislative, where you can review the priorities of the chamber and learn more about what the chamber is doing. I'd also let you know that you can find contact information about your state elected officials who represent you. It's really important that you build relationships with your elected officials, and when there are issues that are important to you, important to our community, that you don't hesitate to reach out to them. Another important way to contribute to the success of the business community is by contributing to the Chamber's Political Action Committee. A well-funded PAC allows the business community to build better relationships with elected officials statewide. Remember, you multiply our collective influence as a business community. So again, thank you for being here today, and thank you for staying involved in the legislative session. Let's enjoy breakfast, and when we come back, I'll introduce Governor Kevin Stitt. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, here to continue with our program is Greater Oklahoma City Chamber Chair, Percy Kirk.
Okay, hope you enjoyed breakfast. So this morning as I was coming up here, I was visiting with Randy, and we were talking about, we were both watching the news this morning, and on the news we saw the governor out running and preparing for the memorial, and Randy's comment is, this guy's off and running. And I think as you visit with him this morning, you're going to see how he is. I'm honored to welcome our distinguished speaker, Governor Stitt, to the stage today. Governor Stitt's the 28th governor of Oklahoma. He's leading the state with a vision to become a top 10 in critical categories, from government efficiency to job growth, infrastructure, education, criminal justice reform, and healthcare. Governor Stitt's an entrepreneur and a businessman who founded a mortgage company, Gateway, in 2000 with $1,000 and a computer. By delivering strong leadership and vision, he grew the company into a nationwide mortgage company that today employs 1,200 people, has 164 field offices in 41 states, and holds a loan servicing portfolio of more than $16 billion. Governor Stitt's a fourth-generation Oklahoman, raised in Norman, where his dad was a pastor of a Bible church, and he spent many summers as a youth in Skiatook, where his grandfather owned a dairy farm. He graduated from Norman High School, worked his way through Oklahoma State University by selling books for the Southwestern Company. The governor's a man driven by faith and family. He's been married to his wife, Sarah, for nearly 20 years, and together they have 6 children. Please welcome our state's Chief Executive, Governor Kevin Stitt. Governor, thanks for being here today.
Oh, it's my honor. It's great to be here, and it's great to have a morning run-in. Did everybody else run this morning?
You don't have to raise your hands on that one. I'm trying to help everybody out. Governor, as this is your first visit with the group, we wanted to spend a little bit of time getting to know you and about some of your priorities, if we could.
Sure.
All right? So the first question, with Oklahoma having the highest incarceration rate in the country, what are your thoughts on enacting criminal justice reform that will have a meaningful impact in reducing the inmates held in our prisons?
You know, first off, probably everybody in this room understands we're number one in something we should be number 50th at, right? We incarcerate more people in Oklahoma than any other state. And I don't think we have any different issues or people than any other state. So to me, we're doing something wrong. And so there's a couple of thoughts on the criminal justice stuff. Number one, we've got to, address the systemic problem of, whether it's whether it's mental illness, whether it's addictions, we've got to figure out better programs to divert them. And that's why I've asked for $10 million from the legislature this year to divert to other types of programs, encourage the nonprofits, the faith-based communities, pay for success programs to help people divert from instead of going into long sentencing. And then the second thing, when people are actually in prison, we've got to come up with better ways to train them and get them ready for the workforce, because everybody that's in prison, or most of them, are going to be our neighbors one day. We want them back in the workforce. We want them back taking care of their children. So we got to start training them. And I went by Maple Bassett. It's a female prison in Shawnee, and took a tour of that. And we launched a new program there. It's called The Last Mile. And it is a program to train inmates in computer programming and actually get them ready for the skills of tomorrow. The other cool thing about that is I got to hang out with MC Hammer. MC is on the board of The Last Mile, and so he was there. It's fantastic. It's doing wonders in Indiana. They just invested another $2 million in this program to roll it out across other prisons. It's in a lot of California prisons. So we've got to engage training and get these folks ready for the workforce. And then the last thing, when they get out of prison, we've got to reduce recidivism. So there's kind of three prongs, right? So when you think about reducing recidivism, you've got to make sure that we're giving these folks every chance for success. And that is addressing the heavy fines, fees, and court cost. That's addressing licensing reform to make sure that they can get back into a career. And when you think about the way we fund our district attorneys, and I totally will support our district attorneys. They have a tough job keeping us safe, and public safety is paramount. Supporting our law enforcement. I'll be the first guy out in front saying we have to respect and support our law enforcement. But when you think about the way that our district attorneys are funded today, it's from fines, fees, and court costs. About 50% of it comes from fines, fees, and court costs. That is a perverse incentive that we need to change. And so I'm pushing and asking the legislature to fund the district attorneys appropriately, but let the fines, fees, and court costs come to the legislature. Let them appropriate those dollars. It is a better way to align the system so we can make sure that we waive things when we need to, because if you get out of prison and you're getting a minimum wage job, or you can't get a driver's license, and then you have a $3,000 bill in front of you, it's so overwhelming, it's hard to get them back going. And so we've got to rethink of those things. Folks, this is not complicated. There's 50 other states to look at. There's 49 other states that are doing it better than us. So we've just got to look and use our heads a little bit and think about technology. The other thing I'll say on that I've pushed the Pardon and Parole Board is to think about a different way to monitor these folks, right? Because right now you have to take off from work. You've got to drive maybe an hour to wherever the crime was committed, or I don't know exactly how they do it, wherever you were incarcerated. Go drive to Carter County and get before your parole officer. When we want them working. So why not use your pay stub that shows I worked 40 hours that week? Why not use FaceTime with your boss? Why not we think of some other technology things that can accomplish the exact same thing without having to burden not only the employee or the person that's having to report, but also their employer, and making it easier for employers to hire folks and keep them employed.
What do you think about that? It's not only the right thing, it makes so much economic sense. Thank you, Governor. So could you please share your vision for reforming state government to make it more accountable, efficient, and responsive to taxpayers? And I got to tell you, I really like the piece of you going out and visiting some of these agencies.
So tell me, read the question again.
Could you please share your vision for reforming state government to make it more accountable, efficient, and responsive to taxpayers?
Oh, man, yeah, that's a good one. Well, I am. I'm doing things a little differently. I've only been on the job about 5 weeks now. I've probably toured 20 or 30 different state agencies, and I've had a great time doing it. And what's amazing to me, everywhere I go, I'm hearing a governor's never been here before. A governor's not, it's been 30 years. I mean, the Department of Education is literally across the street from the Capitol. And I went over there, walked the hall, shook everybody's hands. I'm like, hey, I'm your new coworker. I just started like 3 weeks ago. And they all laugh. And I say, invite me back for the potlucks at Thanksgiving. But, you know, that's just, I love hanging out with my employees and my team members. And I just want them to know that I'm in the trenches with them. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. We're going to get this done together. And they love that. And that's the way I've built my company, and that's the way most of you deal with your employees, and just being accessible, and it just makes all the difference when they know they're part of a team. So we do that, which is just unbelievable. But then the other thing is, as the chief executive of the state, I look at my job, and let's not overcomplicate it. I'm supposed to run the agencies. I'm supposed to deliver services and results for Oklahomans. This is a big service organization at the end of the day. We spend $20 billion of state and federal dollars through our different 120 agencies, and we all want the same things as Oklahomans. We want the best schools, we want the best health care, we want the best roads and bridges. So I'm telling the way we have to do it is we've got to be able to manage them. It's just a novel concept, but you've got to be able to, as the chief executive, to deliver results. And when you talk to the agency head, you've got to say, we've got to do this differently. Or, hey, you're getting off track here. We need to do this. Let's define success. So my whole cabinet, all we're focused on is defining success for the agencies and delivering results, putting the metrics in place, putting the goals in place, where we want to be in 4 years. We want to be top 10. That's the ultimate goal. And here's where we're at today. We're ranked 48th. So here's our plan to move to 25th, and then here's our plan when we get there to move to top 10. So that's kind of the overall goal and the vision. And then how we get there. So when you hire a football coach, let's say we're all the board of regents at OU, which everybody in here wants to be one, true, as well. I know that. I've only got one pick, though. But let's say we're all the board of regents. We hire the new football coach at OU, and we say, congratulations, you're the new football coach. We expect you to go 11-0 and win a national championship. We say, fantastic, we take the job. But we say, okay, there's one problem. Here's your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator, your special teams coach. Okay, you got to win with them. Well, man, I'd like to pick my own people, but I get it. All right. And the one other problem, they don't really report to you. They report to separate boards and commissions, and you really don't have any control over what they're doing. But go ahead and go win 11 games. It'd be pretty hard, pretty challenging. And that is what I told the House, the Senate, and I'm telling you, I am so excited to work. I don't know if they're here today, but President Pro Tem Treat, Speaker McCall, they have been fantastic to work with. They're great Oklahomans. They want to move the needle, and we did things differently. We sat down at the governor's mansion every Tuesday for breakfast. We talked about what this looked like, how we were going to sell it to our different caucuses, and then was it yesterday or the day before? When did we have our press conference? A couple days ago. We stood up together, and apparently it's never been done. It was just a really great moment for me and Oklahoma and the House, the Senate, showing unity. So Greg Treat and Charles McCall were right up there with me. We had probably 60 or 70 House and Senate members, and we showed unison in the fact that we are moving this legislation forward. We negotiated the language, and they've all just passed out of their respective chambers today. And so now it's called a live round. I'm learning all these new terms. Live round goes back over to the other chamber. So we just vote on it next week, and it comes to my desk. So this is going to move the needle in Oklahoma. It's a huge deal.
Yeah, everybody expects you to be the leader of it, and now you can. And thanks again, Senator Treat and Speaker McCall. What do you believe is necessary to turn Oklahoma into a top 10 state for common education?
So, when you think about education, that's a core function of state government. We've got to get this right. And when I think about common education, I think also about career techs and higher ed. And today, they're just so siloed. Common education kind of is focused on their world, career techs and higher ed, but there's a lot of overlap, and really kind of stepping back for a second and thinking about the children and what they need, because not everybody is going to be a rocket scientist or a doctor or a lawyer. Only about 50% of our kids go to higher ed. So I want to make sure that every kid graduates from high school and knows that they have a great future and a career, because the jobs of tomorrow are different than the jobs of yesterday. So we've got to start thinking about what are the careers, what do the businesses need, what are the workforce needs, because the more I meet with commerce and workforce and thinking about businesses, we've got to do a better job of training and getting these kids ready for the workforce. So we need to think about it that way. And then, the standards are really important. So when I met with the superintendent of schools, we talked about the standards that have been rolling out, and I was excited to learn that we've rolled out top 17 standards of what a kid needs to learn in first grade, second grade, third grade, and so now we're ranked the top 17s in standard across the U.S. That's the first step in that. The other thing is, I believe that the magic happens between teachers and kids in the classroom. So to me, it's got to come back to getting the best professionals and teachers in our classroom. And that's why I'm pushing for another pay raise for teachers, which is going to bring us to #1 in the region. We've got to get this through, because I don't know when Colorado and Texas are going to step up again, right? So it's always a deal you're chasing. But we can really move the needle and be #1 in the region with another $1,200 pay raise. And then also in business, if you've got a recruiting problem or you can't get enough folks into your profession, you've got to maybe come up with a bonus program. So that's the thing that I've also come up with, is I want to match $5,000 with a local district to recruit new teachers into Oklahoma, or somebody that's been out of the profession for 3 years to come back. Because we've got about 33,000 teachers in Oklahoma that currently aren't teaching but are actually certified. So I've got to do some things to get them encouraged to come back into the classroom, because that's where it all starts. Bigger things I'm also working on is how we structure that and kind of focus, and we kind of talked about it, but higher ed, career techs, and kind of mushing those together a little bit more, thinking about the outcomes for the kids.
Yeah, really important for us. So HB 2597, constitutional carry, was the first bill you signed into law. That legislation was amended in the House to include much stronger protections for businesses and property owners, event hosts, and college campuses to ensure that they can continue to prohibit firearms. Are you committed to protecting those property rights in the future?
Absolutely. I was very encouraged, and we helped push the legislature to make sure that it had those protections in there, because I was very cognizant of the economic development, the commerce problems with previous kind of looks at this bill. But we've got to make sure that obviously we protect the Thunder, we protect NBA. We can't let those things get in the way of the Second Amendment stuff. And so, as a constitutional conservative and somebody that believes in the rights to bear arms, like all of us in this room and across Oklahoma, it was important to make that statement. But also with those make sense protections for schools. So there's kind of misconception you can't do it in carry in schools, higher ed, common ed. Private property owners still have the rights to determine what's going to happen in their businesses. And as a business owner, that should be the right of our business owners, and I'll continue to support that.
Okay, thank you. So it's important to us. Thank you, Governor.
And the other thing I'll say on that, the other thing that gave me a lot of comfort is this is a bill that Bernie Sanders, Vermont, has this same bill in Vermont. There's 15 other states that have this very, very similar language, and so we felt very comfortable with it.
Okay, thank you. As Oklahoma's third largest industry, tourism is a critical component of economic development. Do you have a plan to grow that sector and even make our state an even more popular place to visit?
Absolutely. When I thought about my cabinet, putting my cabinet together, I went back and I studied all the previous governors' cabinets, back for like 40 years, back to Henry Bellman, and looked at how they structured it. And I noticed that the last couple governors had commerce and tourism together as one cabinet position. And I believe we have to get the economy growing. We've got to promote our state. We've got a fantastic state. So I wanted to break those out and actually focus on them separately. So we have a commerce and workforce secretary, and then we have a tourism and branding. And so I am so excited to work with our Lieutenant Governor, Matt Pinnell, and we made him Secretary of Tourism and Branding. And he is a fantastic ambassador for Oklahoma. So he's going to do a great job. And branding is really important as well. Next week, I don't know when we're going to do the press release, but we have a business person that we're really close to making a decision on who's going to run tourism. And so we're still interviewing the last few people, but we're excited about that. But yeah, we're just kind of reimagining that. We need to do a better job of promoting what we have. When I think about Oklahoma, we absolutely can be a top 10 state. Do you guys believe that? We're number 28th in population size in the U.S. Number 28. So 4 million people. We're not a small state. We're right in the middle population-wise. We're number 19 as far as land size. The 19th largest state as far as land size. When I think about the other assets, we're strategically located. We have the best location of any other state. When you think about the interstates and the crossing in America, you've got 35, 40, 44. We're, I think, number 5 in the U.S. in oil production. We're number 3 in natural gas production, number 2 in wind energy production. We have some of the cleanest water, the cleanest air. We have a lot of great things going. Our workforce, our people, our work ethic here. We've got to tell that story, and that's what I'm excited about: tourism, commerce, and explaining, the great things that we have to offer. And it's all about. I can't do this by myself. We've got to have great ambassadors like you folks from the chambers, from Business Roundtable, from all the different organizations help me promote. And then it's about hiring the right people and putting them on task to say, here's the direction we're going, and then let them run. And that's why you need guys like Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell and all the folks that are working in tourism.
Yeah, if you haven't had an opportunity to hear from the Lieutenant Governor, very exciting to have him in this role. He's going to be a great brand ambassador and leader in our state. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. What are your thoughts on regulating the emerging medical marijuana industry as approved by voters under SQ 788, especially as it relates to maintaining an employer's ability to maintain and enforce a drug-free workplace?
Well, that's it right there. As a business owner and fellow business owners with a lot of people in this room, the safety of our workforce. If we've got trucks on the road, if you've got you've got forklift operators, whatever it is, you've got to be able to control, number one, the safety of the public and make sure that you're having a safe work environment. So the Unity bill should be on my desk that kind of defines that and gives the protections to business owners. I should have it, I don't know if it's this week or next week, but it's coming soon. It's something that's paramount. We've got to protect that. And there's something like, Oklahomans voted, and I think we all agree that if medicine is going to help somebody, then we have no problems with it. But we want to make sure it truly is a medicine, and it's not recreational or whatever. There's 35,000 cards that have already been sold for medical marijuana use at this point, and we've got to make sure that we protect the businesses and let them run their businesses safely and effectively. I met with some of the community bankers yesterday, and their question, as you guys all know, it's still illegal federally. So as far as taking deposits and all those things in the banking world, there's still some complications. So we've got to realize this is supposed to be a medical it's supposed to be a medical use drug, and that's what was voted on, and we've got to make sure that our companies are protected.
Thank you. Perhaps the most significant pro-business legislation enacted in Oklahoma over the past 10 years was reforming our workers' compensation system in 2013. It moved Oklahoma from the 6th most costly workers' comp state in the country to 24th, saving Oklahoma employers more than $300 million. Legislation is now being considered to roll back a number of those reforms. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, gosh, that was kind of loud, wasn't it? You know, as governor, I'm not going to let any kind of legislation pass across my desk that would be perceived or in actuality harm the economy, harm businesses. So we're not going to go backwards in that. We're going to be pretty steadfast that Oklahoma is open for business and we can't overly burden industries. And I think there's probably a pretty good balance right now. I haven't studied exactly where it used to be, where we're at today. But as a business owner, you know, there's a lot of protections right now for employees, and you know, and so we have to also protect our business owners and encourage people to expand and people to grow, and make sure we look at you know, market. And when I say what is market, what are other states around us doing? And if we're an outlier and we give somebody an opportunity to go across the state line and have a better deal, or whether it's workers' comp or whatever it is, that's a problem for me, because I want Oklahoma to be the most pro-business friendly state, and I'm going to look to make sure we're competitive everything that we do, and take away any kind of excuse from expanding and growing and moving companies here. And you know, I was excited. I worked with the House, the Senate, and they've approved, or I think it's in the process of putting an extra $5 million in the governor's closing fund this year as a supplemental. Not talking about next year, but this year, so we can compete, and we intend to win against other states. And so we're really excited. I've already been on tons of recruiting trips with businesses and expansions, and I'm supposed to call a company in Stillwater today that is looking for a major expansion. We were in D.C. last Thursday for a game changer for Oklahoma City, a company to move here in the aerospace industry. So all those things, we cannot go backwards and make it more difficult for people to be located here.
We're open for business?
We're open for business.
Oklahoma has a large uninsured population that generates a substantial amount of uncompensated medical care. Are you considering pursuing federal funds more aggressively as a solution?
Is this like the Medicaid expansion question?
Sort of, yeah.
You know, the first thing I told everybody is once it would be ridiculous to even have a conversation about expanding Medicaid, doing anything different, until you actually can manage that agency. That's the Healthcare Authority. That is the #1 spend in state budget. It's $5.5 billion. Well, that's a B, $5.5 billion of state and federal dollars. And we were the only state that didn't give the governor the authority to oversee that agency. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want dollars in our healthcare system. We want dollars in our rural hospitals and our nursing homes. And we want to make sure that we're doing that like the other states around us, right? And we're taking care of the uninsured population and all that. Once this bill, and we're really close now, you guys saw it passed yesterday, and so it should be on my desk next week, then we can have some make sense conversations about what are the federal waivers we can do. And I met with, when I went to D.C., I met with the Secretary of Health and Human Services and talked about what Oklahoma is doing different than other states, how we can improve. And so I'm open to all conversations about federal dollars. I'm open to all conversations about you know, how we're delivering health care in our system. But we've got to reimagine how we deliver it. And we've got to think about the patient, the outcomes, instead of, you know, there's some fee for service versus outcome types conversations we need to have. I've got a fantastic group, over 100 people from all over the state, briefing me and working on this healthcare big, you know, change for Oklahoma. And I've told them I want it done by August 31st so we can really roll it out for next year. Because the problem with, you know, winning governor is you win in November 6th, and it's such a short time period, November 6th, and then you get sworn in January, and all the bills, they're telling me as soon as I got sworn in, oh, all your bills got to be in by December 10th, and I'm like, what? It's very hard to like get these big plans going, and so I'm excited to do that, excited to look at that. The problem that we've got to think about and remember is this. And now there's enough data that I can really look at other states and come up with a great plan for Oklahoma. But you have this uninsured population over here. We all agree we got to take care of that. We got to figure out we're compensating, we're taking care of those folks, and we're not getting paid for it, right? That's the argument. We got to do that. So you roll out this plan and you say we're going to take care of these folks here, but here's our insurance. Here's the people that are already insured. The problem is if you say we're going to take care of this, what happens is this group over here, about this many of this group will pop over to this pile. So this starts expanding and this starts growing. So we have to be very careful of how we craft and how we go after that uninsured and make sure we isolate that. So what I did first and foremost is I ordered an audit of the who's on our rolls today, who's on the Medicaid rolls. Are we having abusers? Let's get the abusers off the system and make sure we're truly taking care of the ones that need to, and the able-bodied folks that shouldn't be on the system are getting off the system. So I'm doing that, and it's a long way to say I'm open to all conversations once we can dig into the authority, but I'm not even going to talk about anything until I can get my people and make sure I understand and start digging into the weeds a little bit more on that $5.5 billion. What's happening to it? Where's it going? How can we spend it better?
That's fair, Governor. So as the final question, anything you'd like to share with the group, and how do we help you?
You know, you guys have been fantastic. Just the fact that you're here today, you're engaged in the Oklahoma City community, you're business people wanting to move it forward. That's a help by itself. Getting involved with commerce, with the business roundtable also helps us move the needle. So we're bouncing ideas off each other. You're helping us recruit businesses. When we were up in D.C., they wanted to talk to people that have expanded or that are currently in Oklahoma. So all that stuff, getting involved is helpful. And then, you know, I'm also trying to figure out the best way, and my communications team is helping me. How do I communicate with Oklahomans? And how do we put the metrics in place and tell you, here's where we're at today, and here's what success looks like? So we're working on that. So when we get that set up, and we should have it from our digital transformation folks, we should have a really good dashboard. So when you see that, you can help me, move the needle. And just with public, not pressure, but public persuasion, I don't know what I should say, but pushing the legislature and helping me with just making the right decisions. So I think just being engaged is what I need the most. And then if you have good ideas from your industry that need to change so we can cut red tape, we can reduce regulations, we can make sure that we're getting dollars on target, I need to hear those things. My cabinet wants to hear those things. We want to do things better and move our state forward.
Thanks, Governor. Please join me in thanking the Governor. Thank you. Nice job.
Optimism is right. We have the right guy sitting in that seat. Thank you, Governor. Thanks again to each of you for attending this morning's breakfast. Thank you to all of our sponsors this morning also. Before we adjourn, I'd like to call your attention to a very important upcoming event that enables us to build our relationships at the federal level. The Chamber's D.C. visit is scheduled for May 1st and 2nd, and in addition to packed meetings with each of Oklahoma's congressional delegation members, we'll have a reception on Capitol Hill with leaders and off-Hill sessions covering military defense updates, immigration, the political landscape, and more. Please reserve your spot for this important event at okcchamber.com/DC. And thank you for being here this morning. We're adjourned.